What is up, guys? I'm filming episode 4 of Life After Lockup. I mean, filming the recap, you know what I mean. I've been doing this for a while, so you know what I mean. But if you're new, subscribe, like this video, comment, check out my other videos if you haven't already. Check out my socials if you're not keeping up with them, you're missing out. Check out my podcast episode. I posted a new episode, so make sure you check it out. It's pretty open-minded on Spotify. I forgot something. Forgot my mic. That doesn't work, so we're gonna be using something instead of that. So make sure you turn your notifications so you get notified when I post. So this one was a little hefty. I wouldn't say it's the most horrible episode, but I think we're getting closer to seeing Ken. I think by next week we'll probably be seeing Ken. And so many notes for this episode, but there was a lot actually going on, but maybe to y'all it wasn't, but I feel like there were some little details that making Gypsy feel more have more closure about her childhood, and I think we're getting somewhere, but that's why I keep adding all these little details. So I feel like it's piecing a puzzle together. So the episode starts off about Gypsy explaining that she was having a nightmare about her mom, Dee Dee. She was talking about like what she could have done instead of like what she did back in 2015, and she was just having a lot of like nightmares. And then it like pans to like the next day. The producer asked her like, oh, is the nightmares consistent like post-release, during lockup, all that stuff? And she said she's been having them since she got convicted. This is probably the first time she's really actually talked about it on air. I can only imagine how traumatic that is. She says that she explains that she doesn't know how to forgive herself, but she wants to move on so she doesn't have to keep having these nightmares. Like a part where, like, I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but there's like this segment that they always have of the people that do TikTok art, where it actually caught me off guard because I don't think I remember this from the act, but there was a part where there was like a girl said that Gypsy was like tied up by a dog leash and during the night when she slept with Dee Dee, and she would have it attached to Dee Dee, and she would have it so she would know when she would move in the middle of the night. The following day, Gypsy and Ryan decided to go to the Blanchard home and spend the weekend there. Gypsy hasn't gone to this house since she was 10 years old. I think this is like a family hangout house. I think it possibly was owned previously by the grandma, if I'm not mistaken. And so instead her cousin lives there, and I think it's just a family hangout there now because he turned it into like a house. And then right next to it is his tattoo parlor, which I thought was pretty cool. I've never seen anyone live like right in close arms of their job like that. Wow, that's kind of cool because you could just go outside and then you're right there at the tattoo parlor. So I thought that was really cool. They decided to stop at the grandma's grave to talk to her because like I said, Gypsy hasn't seen like a lot of things since she was like a little kid. She hasn't seen her grandma's grave since she was probably 10 years old, I believe. They had to talk to her and get some closure. I think this is one of the few people that she generally felt safe with, is what I was hearing when she was talking about her. She seemed to really adore her. It's just so creepy and uncanny how much Dee Dee and her grandma looked so much alike. When they were showing the pictures of the grandma, I was like, are we sure we're not looking at Dee Dee? Because they look the same. Decided to take a family picture at the park. And that was a park where Gypsy used to hang out with when she was little, and it was kind of like a family, like a traditional place that the family used to hang out at. We're driving around. Rod talks about like this house that him and Dee Dee used to live together at, and he was like pointing at it. And I want to mention that like Gypsy looked really uncomfortable the whole ride up till probably to the grave. I probably like seeing all these all these spots is probably like bringing up some memories, probably some good, probably some bad, but I was kind of looking at her body language the whole time, and she just looked really uncomfortable the whole time, and it was really kind of crazy to see. But I don't know if other people peep that, but I always try to look at people's body language when I watch shows, whether I'm like recapping them or whether I'm just enjoying them on my own. I try to look at people's body language because it says a lot without saying anything. Her grandma passed away, Gypsy was saying that her mom was spiraling a lot around this time because she couldn't take her death, and she didn't take it very well, which is understandably so. Got really frustrated at God over this little event, and she was like throwing away things that the grandma gave him, preferably the angel statues that were gifted to them, and she just smashed them on the floor. It's probably really traumatic to watch because, like I said, she was 7 years old when she passed away, so probably seeing that growing up, like, she probably didn't understand like what was happening. Because I'm trying to see as like a little kid standpoint, like, you probably don't even understand like what death is at that age. The family decided to go to their cousin Bobby's house, his little parlor thingy, and they decided to get a tattoo by him. And then she was explaining that she was super close to her mom's side of the family. You know what, I want to say this. I have never met anyone in my life that's been close to both mom and dad's side. I've never seen that in my life, and I don't know if that exists, but every time I've talked to someone, it's always, oh, it's mostly my mom's side of the family. But I just feel like that's just a random thought that I just had to say out loud. Bobby says in the confessional that the last time he saw Gypsy was when she was in the wheelchair still. And I noticed that every time people go back in their memory bank and they're like trying to think of when the last time they saw her, and they always say the wheelchair, the wheelchair, the wheelchair. He said that all he's known of her was being considered as the sick kid, and he didn't bother to like look further into why she was so sick all the time. He was just like, well, she's sick all the time, that's just how she is. She explains that she noticed that people in the family kept telling her that her mom was different, and she didn't understand like why people were calling her different all the time. And then Bobby was like saying that he probably because Dee Dee was showing signs of being bipolar, and they didn't probably know what that was. It goes back to like a story when they were teenagers, and he said that when Dee Dee and him were teenagers, she grabbed like an orange and she peeled it, and she took like a little piece of it, and she was talking to it like a little baby, and then she named it and everything, and then she ended up smashing it and walking away. What bothered me was that Bobby said that that was like very traumatic for him to watch. And I don't know why, because if you were to compare Gypsy's life to Bobby's, that one time, that one isolated incident, like, please don't. It was very weird, and I felt like it was a little selfish, because her smashing an orange is the least of your problems. That's probably the start of something, but it was the very much like the least of your problems. Gypsy explains that when she was younger, she was told by her mom that she heard voices, and she was saying that she saw shapes and stuff like that that weren't there. It was like having guilt, because she was saying that like she wished she could have told someone when she first heard that she was seeing things that weren't there. She didn't want her to be seen as a bad person. So she never told anyone about it. She just kind of kept it to herself. Seeing this family, it doesn't seem like they take mental health issues very well. They kind of just sweep it under the rug a lot, and they just kind of treat it as that's just how they are. And I've just noticed it from the few people that we've seen that are deep in her family's roots. They kind of just seem like they just don't like to talk about it, just like a lot of other families do. It seems like it's a very taboo thing to talk about in their family. After watching it over and over again and doing all these notes, like, I'm just kind of noticing a pattern here. Gypsy says in the confessional that several family members came out and say that Dee Dee was like the weird one in the family, but no one would ever like look into it. They just kind of like I said, swept it under the rug and just kind of treat it as like that's just how she is. She also adds that her family wasn't educated on speaking on mental health issues, on how to get like help and stuff. People would just kind of sit with their mental health issues or they didn't talk about it. Bobby says that she felt like she was failed, and he wished that someone could have stepped up for her. I wish he could have stepped up, taking the blame off of me. But he also peeped that she was weird and things were just seemed a little bit off. But like I said, he kept ignoring things and sweeping things under the rug. Like, a lot of people around her did fail her. Like, they're literally telling on themselves on these episodes, like, yeah, like, I knew that she was weird, I felt like something was off, but they would never do anything about it. Haven't you heard of if you see something, say something? So Gypsy brings up the fact that family members would say that she's off, and then she would ask why like people didn't intervene, and then they would say that because they didn't want to upset her. She decides to get tatted by her cousin since it was like a family tradition, like, basically passed down. Like Christy has gotten tatted by him, Rod has, several cousins has. It's just been a very long line of people that's gotten tatted by him. So it was her first professional tattoo. She did have a stick and poke, and the producer was like, oh, what's a stick and poke? Because I guess people don't talk about it a lot, but I almost said brother. Her cousin explained it, and then she's like, oh, like it was a K for Ken, and she got it for her ex, and then when she broke up with him, or he broke up with her, she wanted to take it off, and she was trying to like scrub it off, I guess, and it's still there. It's just extremely faint. So yeah, it's just kind of weird because she brings up her ex so much now. I think ever since Christy brought him up the first time, she hasn't stopped talking about him now. Like now it feels like it's in the forefront of her brain all the time because she finds any and every reason to talk about him, it feels like. So don't get her drunk because she will say her thoughts. Getting her tattoo, I noticed that she wasn't flinching at all, and she was saying that the reason why she wasn't like having like a reaction to her getting tattooed because she was, I forgot, she was like literally getting IVs and always getting poked and prodded, that getting a tattoo wasn't as painful as getting her labs done all the time, because I can only imagine that she got them done like a lot. I remember when I got my first tattoo when I was 21 years old. It's actually this one right here. This is actually, people say that this is the most painful spot to have your tattoo at. I had this redone like 3 times, but it used to be very thin, but when I first got it done, like I was almost in tears. But I also learned that like over time of me getting tattoos is that color tattoos hurt more. When I just get plain black tattoos like this or like this, they don't hurt as much unless it's the shading part. I don't really have an issue with the black tattoos, but when it comes to color, it hurts like a mug. Freaking pretty, but I did definitely flinch when I got my tattoo. But tattoos was something that I've wanted, but I was always scared of getting. But it was just kind of crazy to see her like not flinch. But it was a very cute tattoo. It's kind of hard to pronounce, so I'm gonna try to pronounce what the hell it is. Uniloom, and she got it for her life's journey because it has like a lot of twists and turns, and she had a whole speech about it. I don't want to reiterate what the hell she said because it's kind of like, you know, sometimes I don't really get, because sometimes, okay, I've noticed that sometimes it would be like a simple tattoo, like something like this, and people will have a paragraph worth of why they got it. Like you don't always have to have a meaning for every tattoo. Like you can just get it just to get it. I get why she got hers, but like you don't always have to over explain it. It's just, you know, you can just cliff notes it and call it a day. And Ryan decides to get a tattoo. He was supposed to help. Okay, so then Ryan decides to get a tattoo. He was supposed to help Rod with making dinner, but he decided to go get a tattoo. Got a rose tattoo because Gypsy rose, so that's why he got it. It was kind of cringe, I'm not gonna lie. Everything he does is cringe. There's nothing that he can do to make me not feel uncomfortable. It pans to Christy trying to look for photos for their photo album, and then she comes across, of course, Ken's pics because he mailed them to her probably when she was still in. Probably when I start getting a little bit weirded out by Christy, I'm not gonna lie, because she purposely looked for those pictures. She said that she had pictures of Ryan and Gypsy when they first dated, but I don't recall her ever taking those out. She purposely searched high and dry for those Ken pics that we've seen over a dozen times. Upset that they broke up, of course, as anyone, because she was hysterical when they broke up. Said that him and Christy are still friends. They still keep in contact, and just because, and this is what she says, just because they broke up with them doesn't mean that she breaks up with them. She still keeps in contact with her daughter's exes no matter what. and no matter what circumstance. Say this, if my mom was in contact with either of my exes, I would feel some type of way. Like if she were to text my current ex right now, well, he's probably deployed, he's most likely allegedly deployed. That's where we left off at, is he got deployed allegedly. I would feel some type of way. I would feel some type of way. I think I would have some resentment with her, because it's kind of like hanging with the ops, low-key hanging with the ops. And especially if she would know why we broke up, and then she would talk to him behind my back, and then she would be like basically acting like the messenger and telling me, oh, he's single, he's not talking to anyone. Like, this is Christy. She's like, oh, he's single, not talking to anyone, he just got out of a relationship. I would be pissed if my mom told me that stuff, because she's most likely telling my business to him if you know that stuff. And so honestly, I don't know how she doesn't have resentment. I know that she probably doesn't feel resentment because she still has lingering feelings for that man. But if I were to be like, oh yeah, I still keep in contact with, I almost said his name, I would feel some type of way. Honestly, I would try to be nosy at first, but then I would be like, okay, this is kind of getting weird. Okay, this is kind of getting weird. Like, I don't think I care that much anymore. And then it kind of just feels like it's leaving a door open all the time, because if you have access to one of the family members, I feel like it's still leaving the door open. And I feel like she was kind of letting the door open herself, like, he's single, he's not looking for anyone. I don't know, I feel like that's just kind of disrespectful in my opinion. I don't even think they're friends for real. I just think they just like to talk and gossip about Gypsy and keep tabs on each other. And reached out to Christy. He goes on to say that like people were telling him, if you love Gypsy, you should let her go, and that's why they broke up, so she can find herself and all that stuff. And because for a long time Gypsy didn't know why they broke up. People keep speculating it's because of the media, but it feels like it's a little bit more than that. Or I don't know if it's just some bullshit to just cover his ass or something, but I'm just a little bit like, why do we care? Why do we care? Why do we care? It's been 8 years. I don't think I would want to like reach out to someone after that long of a gap of not talking. Ryan was getting ready for work. He asked for like towels and stuff like that. And as Gypsy reached for the towels, the coffee spilled onto her magazine. And this magazine was like when she first got locked up, and she was all over the place because of the story. And the crazy part is, as she was trying to like, she was freaking out over the magazine, she poured the rest of the coffee onto the carpet. And I was like really confused by that. Like, I would have just gotten a paper towel, dabbed it. If it's really that big of a deal to you, I would have gotten a paper towel, dabbed it, and not spilled the rest onto the carpet. Like, those are pretty white carpet, something to hold on to, something to cling on to. Even though she keeps saying that she wants to move on for her traumas, but like, I feel like keeping that magazine is just another reminder. Why would you pour the rest of the remainder of the coffee from the magazine and just flip it onto the thing? Like, that was kind of like very much 2-year-old. I don't know, like, it just reminded me of a 2-year-old. It was never that serious. Ryan was telling her as he was leaving to not go, like, leave the house, basically. Like, he was saying like, you better not leave the house. Like, he said it like that. And then she was saying in her confessional that she doesn't feel like she needs to go out, which was very weirdly timed, because after he said that, she's like, yeah, I don't feel the need to go outside. I don't feel the need to make friends. Girl, yes you do. Like, he's already keeping you in a confined space like prison. And I feel like I don't even think she's gone a walk in her own neighborhood. Like, she's always cooped up in that house. Like, he likes to keep tabs on her too. And I feel like him being off those 3 weeks, it was like his way of always having his eye on her. And the fact that he has to go back to work, like, it was kind of probably freaking him out, because he likes to keep all the tabs on her. He likes to always like know what she's doing. Only because he knew that she was gonna go back to Ken. But she said that she doesn't feel okay with being constructed. And then she decides to clean and organize the house because she noticed that Ryan was like a little bit of a clutter. and she's grown up with like hoarders, so she was kind of feeling a little bit antsy about that, and she knew that, but she's trying to be nice about it. And she's like, yeah, he was living in a bachelor pad before me, like I get it, like now I'm here and now I'm just like, now everything needs to be clean. She decides to call Christy on FaceTime, and then she goes on to say that how like Ryan is like has a lot of clutter, and it was mostly in the closet fridge that seemed to have a lot of clutter in it. And then Ryan calls in the midst of her being on the phone with Christy, and then she like said, oh, I declined it, but she looked terrified of declining that call. I have never seen anyone look so terrified to decline their significant other's call.
I'm sure he don't want to wear things over. Ryan's calling in. I declined it for a second just so I could finish him. He is fine. He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
I feel like that just gave me a lot without saying anything. Christy was saying that Ken checked in and she wanted to know what Gypsy was doing. He goes on to say the reason why her and Ken broke up was because of what I said before, and that he regrets his decision. And then Gypsy says that she was trying to hold on and wait for him, and she was hoping that he would come to her arms when she got out of prison, but he never did. He says that Ken wants to reach out, but he was scared of him and her and Ryan getting into an argument, so he just talks to Christy. Talk through each other through Christy is what it looks like. Then Gypsy says that her and Ryan have an open communication style, but she wishes that like they didn't have it, because she wants to leave the door open for Ken, because she was like, oh, like in case Ken reaches out, like I want to talk to him. She goes on to say that if she wasn't married to Ryan, she would be running to Ken. And then Gypsy was saying in a confessional that she did things out of spite when they broke up, and she would try to do things out of attention to get him to talk to her. She was saying that like, oh, like he likes blondes and I'm a brunette. Yawn, who gives a fuck? It sounds like me going, like it sounds like high school all over again. Ryan comes back from his 8-hour shift, and then Gypsy was like super excited to like show him what she did while he was out. And the first thing he says was, you know, I got off like at work like an 8-hour shift, right? She's showing him the fridge. He was like already agitated because a lot of things were gone, but apparently a lot of the stuff that was gone was empty bottles of condiments, so like old food. He was saying hit with a lot because she decided to clean the house, and he was feeling like slighted, I guess. He was like looking through the trash, and he noticed that like his pillow was in the trash, and he was irritated by that because he's like, you don't throw away pillows. And then she's like, yes you do, like you throw away pillows, like it looks nasty, so I'm gonna throw it out. And he was agitated by that. It had a bunch of old stains on it from probably like face oils and sweat, and it's good to throw out your pillows. I think it's like every 5 years or something like that. My pillows, I definitely need new pillows, because mine are so like flat that it's like so uncomfortable to lay on now. Like there is no type of like firmness to it anymore. It's completely depleted. But then she was saying, where did you get this drink from or whatever? And then he's like, I don't know, maybe an ex came over. And it was like a dig at her because he clearly knew something was up, so he was like making like a little jokey joke about it. And that's basically how it ends. Like that's literally all that happened. It's basically centered around Ken. That's basically all it was. Like it just feels like I'm always talking about Ken now. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you like this video. Check out my other recaps because it will help me out a lot, and it's very, very appreciated if you do so. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.